to the class, children. Now we pass on to your English and open your English textbooks and also open the page number 161. Here, vacation. What do you mean by vacation? Okay, we can observe this poem first and then afterwards we are going to discuss about that. When the gong sounds 10 in the morning, I walk to school by our lane. Every day I meet the hawker crying bangles, crystal bangles. There is nothing to hurry him on. There is no road he must take, no place he must go to, no time when he must come home. I wish I were a hawker spending my day in the road crying bangles, crystal bangles. When at 4 in the afternoon I come back from the school, I can see through the gate of that house the gardener digging the ground. He does what he likes in his spade, he soils his plows. With dust, nobody takes him to task if he gets baked in the sun or gets wet. I wish I were a gardener digging away at the garden with nobody to stop me from digging. Just as it gets dark in the evening and my mother sends me to bed, I can see through my open window the watchman walking up and down. The lane is dark and lonely, and the street lamp stands like a giant with one red eye in its head. The watchman swings his lantern and walks with his shadow at his side and never once goes to bed in his life. I wish I were a watchman walking the streets all night, chasing the shadows with my lantern. Okay, you can observe something. That means in this vacation poem, the author is telling that if he is go on seeing the persons, those who are working with their fields, and he was wishing to become like that person one time, and after that the other person what he was going to be do, like that he was going to become. In this poem, Rabindranath Tagore was telling about the hardness or how the workers are going to be worked together. We are going to be observed here, and whatever the hardships they are going to be faced, we can observe it here also. Okay, coming on to the poem. When the gong sounds 10 in the morning and I walk to school by our lane. Here, when a large bronze days or the time is going to be, or here gong means a large bronze disc having upturned rim and that produces sound. If you are observed something about these gongs or these bell ring will be observed about the Christianity mission or the Christians having their praying place. We are going to be observed that big size bell, that is a gong. It should sound large sounds. And 10 in the morning, at 10 o'clock, it was going to be runged in the morning. And I walked to school by our lane. And in the morning, I was walking towards to my school through by our road. And every day I was meeting the hawker crying. When I am going towards to the school, I am observing that somebody will be calling or somebody will be selling something. That means I meet the goods seller. Goods seller means some of the vendor was going to be selling, or he was going to be crying something, or he was shouting something. Vendor was going to be shouting something. Its name was bangles. He was shouting with the bangles and also the crystal bangles. Here he he was shouting as bangles, glass bangles, fine quality bangles, and also shining bangles. Likewise, he was going to be shouted. That was going to be observed by the author. There is nothing to hurry him on. And when I am going towards to the school hurriedly, but this fellow was not hurried towards his business. The author was observed that that fellow was not hurried in his business. He was coming with slowly. There is nothing to hurry him on. There is no road he must take. But he was going with slowly and he was not hurried in his business. He was not spared to the any road. He was covering all the road. That means here there was no road he must take. There was nothing road he was going to be taken. He was always finished all the roads for selling his glass bangles, and also no place he must go, and he was also going all the places. He must go to all the places within time, and he was not thinking about the time. There is no time when he must come home, and he was not fixed time for coming home. But when I am going to the school, there will be a fixed time for coming home, and going to the school there will be a fixed time. If this glass bangle seller has no time to coming home, when he was coming home in earlier, or if he was coming home afterwards, or when the light is going to be switched on, he was coming home. Likewise, he was doing his duty. But there is no time restrictions will be there for this glass bangle seller. So, I wish I were a hawker. I wish I were become a good seller, or I am going to become a salesman, or I am going to become a something as to the seller. I am spending my day in the road. When I am going to become the spender or the vendor, I am always standing in one road only. And also, I am crying bangles, crystal bangles. When I am like that fellow, I am standing in the road. I am shouting as bangles, crystal bangles. But this fellow was moving here and there, and he was covering all the roads, and he was not restricted for his time. And after that, the school will be over at 4 o'clock. When at 4 in the afternoon, when the time was going to be rung at the 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I come back from the school. I am coming back from the school. I can see through the gate of that house the gardener digging the ground. After that school, after finishing of the school, I am coming back from the school. I can observe through the gate some of the fellow was going to digging the ground. He was making something about towards to the plants, or he was going to grow something in that ground. He was making the digging towards to the ground. Gardener was doing something in this garden. He does what he likes with his spade. He was making use of the spade. He was wishing to do what he was wishes, or what he likes to do. He was going to do. There is no restriction for like doing like this or like that, and he wishingly do from his wishes only, and he does what he likes, what his spade was. He soils his clothes. When he was doing some work in that ground, he makes the shirts or the cloths or the dresses what he is wearing, he makes that into soils, or he makes towards that dress into dirty ones, because he was mixing with the dust. Nobody takes him to toss if he gets baked in the sun or gets wet, and nobody will be asked about that why he was going to be done with the dust, and nobody taking care him, or nobody can change his life also if he gets baked in the sun or gets wet, and if he is going to be getted wet also, he was not going to be asked somebody. And if you do work in the sunshine, and nobody will ask about that why he was doing or he was going to be baked in the sun, nobody will be asking about any question for him. And if he is going to be wetted for the baking sun also, nobody will asking about to the questions in front of him. I wish I were a gardener digging away at the garden with nobody to stop me from digging. And I wish I were become a gardener. I'm going to digging away the garden and making some paths, potholes towards to the flowering plant also. Nobody can to stop me from doing my work. Likewise, the author will be telling, just as it gets dark in the evening and my mother sends me to bed, just as gets dark when the evening was going to be drowned, and it should be happening towards to the darkening will be appear in the evening, my mother sends me towards to the bed for sleeping purposes. In the meantime, I can observe my open window the watchman walking up and down, and when I am going towards the bed, I can see through my open window. The watchman will be walking up and down, and he was walking with the road with dark and lonely. He was walking alone in the road with dark and lonely person. And the street lamp stands like big with one red eye in its head. And here giant means it should be big, and that should be some light will be placed on that street lamp, so it should be shown as a red eye in its head. That means some protuberance will be coming from the street lamp, and it was observed as one red eye in its head. The watchman swings his lantern. The watchman is holding a lantern. Here, the lantern will be shown in the figure. You can observe that lantern. But now, in the earlier, this lantern was going to be used in the dramas will be played in the local areas, or some marriages is going to be take place, and also the postmen are using of this lantern for sending the postcards. And this should be in the earlier it should be useful, in the earlier it should be useful in the houses also. And this will be taken by the watchman and swings this lantern and walks with his shadow. And when we are taking along with this lantern, its lights will make that man's shadow onto the wall. And he was moving one side to other side, and never once goes to bed in his life. Here, watchman was not going to bed in his life means he was not slept in the night. He was always sleeping in the morning only. I wish I were a watchman walking the streets all night, chasing the shadows with my lantern. Here, if I am going to wishing I were a watchman, I am also walking the streets all night. In the earlier, the author is telling that if I am going to become a hawker, or a hawker means a seller, I am going to sell something, and afterwards if he was going to become a farmer or to a gardener, he was going to do something in the garden, and now he was telling that he was going to become a watchman. He was always watching the streets and through the lights, and he was chasing the shadows. He was chasing the shadows, those would be appear onto the walls or to the ground. with the help of the transparent light enclosed with the glass case to protect wind and rain. And making use of this lantern, he was walking along the streets. Likewise, the author will be wished, and his wishes will be like this in the three manners he was working together. Okay, children, you are knowing about that what is the vacation and how the author was going to be sent his lifestyle when he was going to become like this or like that, or he is going to comparing with the others personalities also. Okay, thank you children.